Good evening. Today is Monday, January 23rd, 2022. Coming to you live a day early today. Had to make some schedule changes, but we had a wild weekend in the NFL playoffs. We're down to the Final Four. Bama Hoops is ranked up to number 2, so let's talk about it. What is up, fellas? Welcome to the Couchcasters Podcast. I'm Jeff, my boy Fonz, Cam, Murph. Parker will be along here shortly. So what's up, everybody? How's everybody's weekend go?
Great. I bet on the 49ers. They're still alive.
They are still alive.
Yep.
They are still alive. Thank the good Lord. I was not wanting the Cowboys to win that game. It's fun. The world's better when the Cowboys lose in the playoffs. Just because of the meltdown of Cowboy Nation. It's just a different kind of meltdown. So
it's fun to watch.
It's fun. It is fun to watch. I will admit, it is fun to watch a good Cowboy meltdown. So,
well, I'm looking forward to the NFC matchup next week.
Yeah.
I don't really care so much for the AFC matchup. I know it's a rematch of last year, but you got Jalen Hurts versus Brock Purdy. I'd like to see Jalen win and go and win the Super Bowl, but I will hate to see the Brock Purdy story end. So I think there's going to be a really good matchup there. And then as far as the talent on the AFC side, it'll be great too. I could not believe the Bills played as badly as they did at home on Sunday.
They were terrible.
It was rough.
But the Cincinnati is legit, Fonz. As much as it kills me to say it, it's like
really, really good. Both sides of the ball.
They got the quarterback. They got the quarterback that you win rings with. That's a guy.
Even the Dolphins game should have been a sign if you almost lose to them.
I mean,
it's fair.
That guy is ice cold, man. Burrow is just a freak. He's ice cold, man. Nothing phases that guy. Even in college and now in the NFL, he's just. I don't know, man. The Bengals are going to be he's 3-0 against Mahomes, and the Chiefs are the class of the AFC, and he's 3-0 against them. It's like Cincinnati ain't going, and Chase too. I mean, they're going to be around for the next 10 years. And we're going to give Matt Canada another run. That's our plan.
Hopefully,
Tomlin's
we're
going to grind it out with defense. Yeah, he's like, we're going to grind it out with defense and special teams. Scoring 16 a game. We're going to try to grind out a championship there. But.
AFC North football.
The Eagles, they just kind of seem like a team of destiny, though, this year.
Yeah.
I mean,
Alabama North.
And I don't know if the Giants are really, if they were really any good, but, beat a division rival like that in the playoffs was pretty significant. I think it'd be a pretty cool story to see the Eagles win.
Man, that would kill me as a Steeler fan, but as a Bama fan and a big Jalen fan, even though I agreed with the decision to go with Tua, I never disliked the kid, so I've never rooted against him. And then watching that game the other night, there were 9 freaking Bama connections in that game between the Giants and the Eagles that night. There were 9. Cool. I was like, that's insane. 9 Bama connections, 2 playoff teams. So I'm like, a little correlation there, maybe? Huh?
I mean, they're everywhere now.
Everywhere.
Every team has 2 or 3.
There's at least a combo going on.
They all posted those pictures after those games. All those Bama guys do. I bet that one was long. They probably get a wide lens for get all those guys in there. And those are just the ones I saw. There could be some on the practice squad too, or some coach somewhere, in there that I don't remember. But I counted 9. And that's recruiting right there. You don't have to recruit. Turn on a game and see stuff like that.
And there's guys on Bama that sign undrafted. It's absurd. Every year.
I know, right? You look at me, you're like, the guy was on special teams for 5 years. He redshirted 5 years, and then you look out there and he's making a tackle in the playoff game.
Jared Dieter. He was one of those. Savion Smith, you know.
Did you just
Josh
utter the
Frazier.
name Garrick Dieter?
Yeah, that was a rough year in 2018. Yeah,
One catch. That's all he had to make was one catch. That's it. And he didn't. And we lost the ring because of it. One catch, Peter. He had 100 for Bowling Green. He had like 4 in Tuscaloosa. And he dropped the one at the end. All we needed. I haven't gotten over Dieter von Sprockets yet.
He was no Richard Mullaney, that's for sure.
Richard Mullaney.
You guys remember him?
That was the guy from Oregon State. Wasn't he from Oregon State or something like that?
Yeah, 15, I believe. He's pretty good, though. I mean, decent year for us.
Mullaney. I love that. Cycle through some of them. Yeah. So I don't know. We'll see. I hope the. I don't know what that was. But yeah, it was a wild weekend. I mean, Dallas Pike in that game. That was actually a really good game. Actually, I mean, the defensive struggled. Dallas had about 10 opportunities to win that game, and Dak threw the game away twice on the interceptions. But I mean, he missed 2 touchdowns. That one over the middle to CD that Warner, the linebacker, it looked like he deflected it, but it turns out it was just a low throw. If he gets that throw up and over him, that's a walk-in. And then that deep throw to Gallup, he threw that one low and inside instead of leading him out, and that would have been a touchdown. So, I mean, he left 2 out right there. Trayvon, our boy, dropped that interception right on the goal line almost. San Francisco, I mean, scored shortly after that, I think. Or they got points after that or something. But Dallas had a comedy of errors.
So I know it would have been hard for them to score from 80 yards out on the final play, but what was that final play?
What was that final play?
I mean, that was atrocious, whatever that was.
I mean, Parker and I were laughing about that at work earlier, about the, hey, Zeke, go out there and get blown up by the defensive end, and we're going to, the way we end the game.
And what's funny is Tony Romo was talking like, oh yeah, Mike McCarthy, he's spent a lot of time on this. This is a very intricate formation. I'm sure they've worked on this situation before. Whatever they've worked on, hopefully it wasn't bad, because that was bad. We didn't get any laterals. I was hoping to see some laterals.
Well, I think that was the plan, and the guy got blown up so fast, but the Zeke playing center thing was hysterical.
Ridiculous. And they only rushed 2 guys, and Dak didn't even have time. It's just ridiculous.
But they had some of the offensive linemen were split out to the left.
Can you hear
So
me?
there I was like, was the plan to create that wall, that hit the pitch and then create a wall? But it got blown up so fast that it was.
No, that was a bad play all around. I mean, as Jeff said, I was telling him, I was like, let me put my, $25 million running back at center, let him get blown up, and then pass it to one of my wide receivers who gets literally a clean shot from the linebacker. About decapitates his ass. I didn't even watch any of the game. I watched the replay on that. I would have been having a conversation with Jerry Jones after the game, and Mike McCarthy be like, you gonna put me out there at center, coach? You're gonna have to fatten me up, okay? Because I ain't doing that again.
So
he got blown up. That was hysterical.
Well, so speaking of Jerry Jones, I was seeing this on Facebook earlier, but they haven't made it past the divisional round since 1996 when they were in the Super Bowl.
Really?
And it's just kind of funny to me. The Cowboys are like the New York Yankees of the NFL, basically, and that they struggled so bad in the playoffs. I mean, it's nothing new, but it's just crazy that a team with as much money as they do, as much power as they do in the NFL, have struggled so consistently. It's got to be the Jerry Jones effect. I think his time or him being the general manager has obviously had a problem with.
That needs to change if they want any more success. I mean,
I didn't on 28 years.
I didn't think I'd see the Braves win a World Series before seeing Dallas win a Super Bowl. That's just me. I would have figured I'd have seen at least 1 or 2. But I've only seen the Yankees win one time, and that was in 09. So we're getting past that.
That's too long of a drought too. I need that to pick up. Something to happen there. I mean, it's 28 years since Dallas was in an NFC Championship game. That's a long time.
So stubborn.
I mean, that's a long time. I can't believe they gave Dak $75 million last year and gave him all that dang money. Like, they didn't have to do that. I mean, Dak wasn't the can't miss guy. It wasn't like Burrow. You know, the Cincinnati's going to have to pay Burrow whatever he wants. You can't not pay that guy. Even Baltimore is waffling on Lamar Jackson. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, you know, but the thing about Dak is like, while he hasn't been successful in the playoffs, it's hard to find even a good quarterback in the NFL. It's a very hard position. Sure. And like, you know, you could be like, oh, y'all could tank for a Bryce Young, but who knows how Bryce Young and his stature is going to do in the NFL. So, like, Dak is a good quarterback. He's not a bad quarterback. The problem with the Cowboys is the same problem I'm sure the Mets and the Yankees probably deal with in baseball is the media firestorm that is on them. The pressure that is on him to be successful is far different than Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars. So, you know, I do think that probably has something to do with it. And the last few years that they've been in the playoffs, they've run into some buzzsaws. I mean, that 49ers team is extremely talented. I know Brock Purdy's the quarterback, and I mean, he's played phenomenal, but their offense, I mean, I know that they only scored 19 points yesterday, but it's hard to stop a George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey, Mitchell.
That guy was a beast yesterday.
Deebo Samuel, Ayuk tandem. I mean, that, and while they, you know, he had a bad game and threw a couple picks, once again, the 49ers have the best defense in the NFL as well. Shout out to D'Amico Ryans, former Alabama guy, who's probably going to be an NFL head coach this time next year.
He did interview for the Texans job. They ought to hire him. I mean, he's a Texans legend. He's one of the best players in franchise history. They can't get any worse.
And J.J. Watt supported it, so.
Yeah.
Who's also, wouldn't he be considered a Texan great too? Now, I don't know if he
two of the top players ever in Texans franchise history, D'Amico and J.J. Watt. See, where J.J. said that when he was drafted by the Texans, that he bought his house across the street from D'Amico because he said if it was good enough for D'Amico to live in that neighborhood, it's good, you know, it must be a good spot.
Yeah, he was part of
Saban get to coach D'Amico?
No, he was a shooter guy. His senior year was in 2005. He was on the top in 2005.
He was on a squad that started so well, and then Pro got hurt, and our offense went right in the tank after that, and we limped down the stretch to that 10-2 season, but we lost LSU, and then the 6-sack game against Auburn, I think.
6-sack? It was a 12-sack game, wasn't it?
12-sack game.
Cool. Honk if you broke the sack.
Yeah. What's his name? I mean,
that
what goes overlooked, nobody remembers that we lost our starting center the week before the Iron Bowl, and so we had our backup center in that game, and everybody makes fun of me about it, but he was terrible, and Auburn killed us up the middle in that game. We had no shot.
The Mike Shula offenses of that day, he did adapt and almost had the Panthers winning the Super Bowl with Cam Newton, but it was run up the middle with Ken Darby, like 85% of the offense. And
then we get down to the goal line and he'd take him out and put Castile in.
Yeah, like Ken Darby, like it was just up the middle runs. We had a fullback, you know, the quarterback threw for barely over 2,000 yards each season. It was a very tough time to be an out. And what's crazy is even in that era, we consider ourselves to be really bad. We were competitive in just about every game we played. Yeah. We never got blown out. We never, you know, I don't know. Anyway, we've had a lot of success since then, but I like going back to those days. I feel like those days as Alabama fans were like you're trying to get to the pinnacle.
Yeah, the ascension.
For fun. When you're on the top and you're trying to stay on top, it's a little bit different as a fan, but I miss those days.
It's much more soul-crushing when you're on top and you lose a game than when you're trying to climb up and lose a game. Yeah. When you're on top and you lose a game you know you should win, that's soul-crushing. And I think that's what a lot of Cowboy fans feel today. But yes.
Has anybody heard from Stephen A. Smith? Has he made?
Oh man, yeah.
I'm sure.
He put something on Twitter last night. It was hysterical, and then I didn't watch the show today, but he said he was going to be relentless on First Take today.
Well, I tell you what. How about them Cowboys? Well, they lost.
Yeah, Skip Bayless was he was.
Oh Lord.
Poor, I felt bad for him today. He was he was an emotional wreck.
The best thing I saw from him was ranting about Lamar Jackson leaving the Ravens.
Yeah, he's about to be because they're going to franchise him. I bet.
Yeah.
He's gonna pull Le'Veon Fonzie. He's gonna be like, yeah, sorry, not put my knee out there for a franchise tag. So he's gonna pull a Le'Veon.
I mean, they need to pay him, but
Yeah.
I hope they don't.
Although he's never beaten us, so maybe that's a good thing.
That's true too. We usually screw him up pretty bad.
Yeah, we lose to everybody else, but we don't. We've beaten Lamar, but we've lost to just about everybody else around there.
Put that on the board.
Well, I
Good
mean,
lose to the
when you
Dolphins.
look at it, in games where he has become a non-factor, talking about Lamar here, that he has not been injured, what do you have to do? You have to force him to pass the ball. You take away the run. And I've said it time and time again, he's a phenomenal athlete.
There's no doubt
But
about that.
there's no doubt about it. But as far as passing skills, he's not in my top 10 of active players right
He
now.
has improved.
He has.
I mean,
And
he's above average for sure.
He did win an
Yeah.
MVP. But
but
that's
how
the
much
weakness
of that
his
was
game.
because of he's a
Yeah.
phenomenal athlete? I mean, the guy
Yeah.
can run for like a deer and run for 3,000 yards if he chose to. He has to pass because everybody picks up on it. I mean,
Yeah. Well, he's got Andrews, so that also boosts his numbers
That
some.
does.
Because if you got a tight end that's legit like that, you can always
think how
check
much
down to that guy.
Mahomes-
That guy catches everything.
how much Mahomes benefits from Kelsey?
Well, while
Big
we're
time.
on the Mahomes train, I know, or not Mahomes train, sorry,
Lamar.
train. I know he was hurt, but everybody wants to talk about how Josh Allen is, Patrick Mahomes Jr. and he played like straight garbage. I mean, he could. I mean, Stephon Diggs went up to him, was all upset during the game.
I saw that.
Because I don't even, was Stephon Diggs did even have a catch? It
He
seemed
got
like
3 catches.
all it was Gabriel Davis or somebody else
Yeah.
down, but he couldn't.
He didn't have many.
Yeah. They're saying
He
the
didn't
Bills
have many.
take Jameer Gibbs in the first round. I don't know if I really like
The
that.
Bills?
Yeah.
They need a running back.
They do need a running back, but
Yeah.
they're not going to use him as a running back. I mean,
Yeah.
Devin
Well,
Singletary.
neither did Bill O'Brien, so I mean,
Yeah. I mean, but Josh Allen, he did not play well, and Joe
he was
Burrow
garbage.
went
He
all
played terrible.
to Buffalo, which is supposedly one of the toughest places to play in the snow. But a lot of people talk Josh Allen up, but when it comes down to clutch moments, it seems like he's always tended to get beat here recently as well.
I think he's still got the dealing with the elbow issue too, but I mean that's not an excuse. But he's not lived up to the hype that he's gotten. I mean, the Bills were like the overwhelming favorites in the Super Bowl this year, and all Burrow's done is excel better than Allen in every stage of his career, and the Bills were the favorite.
Well, not to keep bringing the Dolphins into it, but the fact that the Dolphins were at Buffalo and did not get destroyed. It's
Well, it just makes you think. I mean, it makes
Yeah,
you think.
you're
Connor,
right.
If you had a completely healthy Tua, they win that game.
He had a healthy Bridgewater. It'd be like,
I don't know about Teddy Two Gloves. I think Skyler and Teddy Two Gloves are about the same. And I hate to say that.
I mean,
It's so bad.
Yeah,
It's so bad. I cannot. It's
Hans has the best reaction. He's just shaking his head.
Skylar Thompson does not belong in the NFL. Teddy Bridgewater is like a perfectly serviceable backup. There's a reason he gets a job every year. Skylar Thompson should be an accountant right now. He's the worst NFL quarterback I've ever seen.
Doesn't that tell you something?
So-
Like that he almost beat the Bills.
Yeah, that should have been a red
It's
flag
crazy.
there.
He
Yeah.
made a couple throws, but
He had no business.
couple.
Like,
That's it.
Well,
I mean, he's
Oh God, Skylar Thompson should not be in the NFL.
so outside of the NFL, Alabama number 2 for the first time, or highest ranking since 2002.
4.
I thought they should have been number 1. So Purdue
Should have been, but we don't want number 1.
It doesn't really matter anyway. I mean, it's all kind of irrelevant depending on how we play going forward. But Purdue has like the 47th ranked strength of schedule. Alabama's like number 4.
Jeff, tell him.
You
Tell
know,
him what I told you.
This is your stage, Parker. You tell him what you had the information today. You share
Cameron. I'm sorry.
that. This is what grinds his gears right here.
You know, if Maverick was here to see this, he would approve. So, Cameron, how many teams do you think ranked teams Purdue plays the rest of the season? How many ranked teams? And we're talking about end of February into March.
Is Ohio State ranked?
Nope.
Michigan State's not any good this year, and they beat them this week. Big Ten's down in general this year. Is Michigan ranked?
Purdue's the only ranked team from the Big Ten, and they're number 1.
Yeah.
Purdue plays no ranked teams the rest of the year in the regular season. No, and now something could change. Somebody could
Blew
win.
my mind.
But
I did not believe that. When
The
you told
AP
me
is all a bunch of opinion. Like Houston was number 1, and we beat them, and they were struggling through the American Conference. Like, I mean, I think they're still number 3, and they just lost to Temple, who didn't score a field goal in the last 7 minutes. So a lot of these people, they don't even know who they're voting for.
that. Like Anthony Grant basketball.
Yeah, a lot of these people, they just vote for who they heard from someone else was the best team in basketball. They probably aren't watching the games. They don't probably keep up with any of that. But none of that matters because they're not who picks the tournament field. And I think Alabama right now, if it were NCAA tournament selection time, they would be the number 1 overall seed over Purdue based on that.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I was telling Jeff earlier in the day, I was listening to XM ESPNU on 84, and they were talking about, right before the rankings came out, they were saying, in whose mind, what do you think the rankings are? And someone was like, Purdue. I was like, okay, I mean, I get it. It's a fair choice. And then, I don't know who it was. It was some woman on there. She stated, I think the Duke Blue Devils, I know they've been struggling, but I think they're top 5 team. And I literally, when I told Jeff this with a straight face, I was like, what in the hell did I just hear? I mean, she's like, oh yeah, the Duke Blue Devils. Yeah, they're struggling right now, but they're a top 5 team. No, they're not.
Well, I'm watching them lose to Virginia Tech.
Thank you for proving my point.
Oh no,
they're not good.
I will say Alabama is at the benefit. Now, Alabama has a great team this year, and we played great. College basketball is a little bit down in general this season, which is going to benefit Alabama going forward because, like, North Carolina's down, Duke is down.
What about Syracuse? Are they any good this year?
No. Kansas is the best blue blood probably that's in there right now. When we're talking about Purdue and Alabama as number 1 and number 2, it's a real good play. But the thing that worries me is us coming into the NCAA tournament and then us being a 1 seed and Duke being like an 8 seed, right? Like same bracket. And then all of a sudden we're in a dogfight in round 2 against, a blue blood. But anyway, I was kind of reading this article today about, Auburn last year at this time was number 1 in the nation. And then they basically started getting hit in the mouth a lot around this time. And then they lost in the first round of the SEC tournament and then lost in the second round of the NCAA tournament. I think this Alabama team is a little bit concerned as we kind of get deeper into the schedule because I think we'll beat Mississippi State this Wednesday, and then I think we play Missouri on Saturday again.
Oklahoma in the Big 12
Oklahoma.
challenge.
Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Big 12.
So I think we'll win
Norman.
the next. But then it's like then we're going to go through kind of a gauntlet ourselves, and we've got Auburn on the road, Tennessee on the road as well. So I'm interested to see how we hold up, especially as it kind of gets closer to tournament time, because I'm so used to Alabama basketball faltering right here at the end. Last year was
Yeah.
Past,
Yeah,
like,
we got
8
Auburn
years.
twice.
Not
We got to play
kidding.
at LSU. We still got to play Florida at Tennessee. That's going to be a grind.
Tennessee's
Tennessee
gonna
got
be tough.
fourth.
Okay. Mizzou was pretty tough in that first half.
If Alabama,
And, hey, that was the worst half we played all year.
It
I
really
think.
was, yeah.
And we still had a 10-point lead.
We're up by 10.5. Noah
Yeah.
Clowney played really well in the first. He kind of saved us. But it was
Yeah.
really, really nice to see that. I mean, a team like Mizzou is definitely good enough to hang around. And instead
Well,
of
Brown,
letting
they were
them hang
down
around,
their player, too.
Yeah, Kobe Brown wasn't
Yeah.
playing either. That probably made a difference.
Yeah.
You know, but Miller was like 3 for 12 shooting. Although he did, when old dude was guarding him and like clapping his hands, he did cross him over twice and then bury that 3 in his face. And Damian Fishback said something funny. He was like, what was his name, Diabo or something like that. Thought he wanted that smoke, and he said, Brandon Meno said, "No, you do not." And
Cam,
he
you got
drilled that
something?
3, and then he missed like his next 8, but still.
if Alabama and Tennessee continue to win out when they come together and play in Knoxville, it could be number 1 versus number 2. That's pretty crazy to think about in SEC basketball.
Yeah.
crazy.
I can't believe we got to go on the road and beat them.
It's going to be tough.
Like, it's going to be tough, but man, Nate said that they like playing on the road better. It's like they bond more. He's like, when we're on the road, they bond a little more, man. There's something different about them when they play on the road. So he said they like players prefer.
They
road
they
games.
play in nicer gyms away, man.
Well, that's true too. Most of the
Our-
time
our
they're playing
gym
in a nice
sucks.
arena.
I mean, hey, you go play at the Grove, at Ole Miss, or Auburn's arena. I don't know the name of that one. It's nice.
I remember a time when Coleman Coliseum was kind of like the cream of the crop of the SEC, or maybe not the cream of the crop, but I remember they remodeled it, redid it back,
Yeah, they've done that a couple of times.
ago. And but back then, it used to be a big deal to have a large
Venue.
capacity, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
wanted to have 15,000 people be able to come to a game. Well, now we've gotten to this era where it's build smaller, closer to the court.
Luxury.
You're able to bring a little bit more energy.
Louder.
Coleman Coliseum just feels like
Well, it's the
I
same
mean-
concept with Bryant Denny, man.
it is.
It was when we added that upper deck for the south end zone above the student section. That was in a time in what Cameron's talking about is when all the big name colleges were going for expansion for their stadiums. I mean, Texas A&M did a huge renovation and went from like 92,000 to 105. We added that upper deck and added another 10,000. We went to 101. Now I think we've actually decreased in seats, and I think we're actually back under 100,000 now. I think it was like 99 and some change.
If we're going to keep Nate Oates long term, we're going to have to build him a new arena.
Absolutely.
But the problem is,
100%.
and this is where I love college basketball. I love Alabama basketball. I hope we win the national championship this year. However, the reality is, I think everybody understands now football is the moneymaker.
They paid the bills.
It's what pays the bills. And I remember hearing somebody say, or John Calipari, made this claim because they weren't building him something and they were building the football program something. Oh, we're a basketball school. That happened while I was overseas. And I remember hearing somebody say there is no such thing as a basketball school. Even Kentucky is a football school. They'd rather their football program be better because that's where the money comes from.
Yeah, that's where the money is.
Who's produced. and they realize that. And soon you're not going to see anything that's called a basketball school anymore. It's going to be, North Carolina is going to be a football school. Duke's going to be a football school because they understand the money comes from football, and that's just the way it's going to be. So the thing is, building a new arena, especially the arena that they have these supposed for, that's going to cost a lot of money. And is our athletic department going to be willing to want to throw down money like that on a sport that is a revenue-producing sport, but it doesn't make anywhere near the sport that we, have always prided at Alabama?
I think in this day and age, if they want to continue to battle out, I mean, everything's changed so much, so drastically in the last 10 to 15 years on the college football landscape and in just college atmosphere in general. I think, if they want to, I mean, you want to get the best players and, you really want them to come to play at Alabama. I mean, it's also about, the program and what they bring. But, I mean, it's all about flashing, guys. I mean, we're not going to stray away from that. It's all about the nicest things. It's all about what looks good. I mean, I'd rather drive a shiny, brand new Mercedes-Benz instead of a shiny new Toyota. But that's just my opinion on it.
But do y'all think, because with college basketball at least, because of the emphasis on March Madness, that is really where everybody pays attention to college basketball, that actually hurts, in return?
Well, I think you're going to see very soon, you're about to see some major changes in college football here soon with the way that the league is structured and all that kind of stuff. You're going to see the same thing with basketball. When we start talking about conference expansion and Oklahoma and Texas coming to the SEC and what that does for the basketball side of things, you're going to see USC and UCLA coming to the Big Ten to play basketball. Eventually, you're probably going to see like a 60-something team league of just like the power players, and I think a lot of those smaller conference teams are going to have to go figure out something to do because it's just the way the game is going. So I think even March Madness is going to change because I think the NCAA is going to cease to exist here eventually, which means that the Power 5 conferences are going to put all their money and their heads together to be able to figure out a postseason format that's going to benefit them. And it doesn't benefit the Wichita States and the normal butlers, right? So eventually you're going to see those Power 5 commissioners for whatever it is, Power 5 or in basketball, I don't really even know what it is. But you're going to see them all put their heads together and say, hey, if it doesn't benefit us the most, then it's not worth our time or effort. So we'll see what happens.
I think it was, Cameron, you that came up, we talked about it maybe a little bit here. You talked about the Power 5 making their own kind of playoff, or whether it be for football or basketball, baseball, whatever it may be. How about, I think you might have made a statement about the teams like a Troy, a UAB,
Sunbelt.
It's Sunbelt teams. I'd even go to say maybe Vanderbilt. I know that they're in the SEC, but they're a team where
that's coming. Oh yeah. No. So I talked about this last week with the Group of 5 playoff possibly taking place at some point. So I think some of these teams in the SEC, some of the bottom feeders of the SEC, they're going to get purged as well, and you're going to see, a Clemson replacing a Missouri, for example, or that might not be an example because of the geographic. But you're going to see that happen because, the reality is, some of these teams, they're not making big strides in football, and that's what matters. And so I really do believe it's going to eventually be the power players of the Big Ten, the power players of the Pac-12. There are very soon to be no power players in the Big 12, all the power players in the SEC, and that is going to form a league of just blue bloods and, competitive program. And that's who's going to compete like an NFL model for the national championship, the college football playoff.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right. I mean, I can't wait for that the Power 5 conference. I can't wait for the Power 5 playoff. I mean, that's just... We don't need the NCAA anymore. Like, we don't need you anymore. We just need a commissioner, a Power 5 commissioner, like the NFL and Goodell. We just need a Goodell for college football and just set it up just like the NFL.
It's the best model. I mean,
It's
not
the
perfect.
best model.
It's the best
Heck,
model.
even set it up like soccer, where you have relegations and promotions for bottom feeders. If they suck, the bump, they're gone.
Promoted.
Yeah,
It's not a
Yeah.
bad
that's what
idea.
they do in European football.
It's
I
not a
just
bad
kind of
idea.
like that idea. Like,
Yeah, I mean, you
Yeah.
got like, what
you.
is it? Is it every year that they have to drop for
Yeah.
a change?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
say
Auburn might be in the Sun Belt.
I was gonna
Hey,
say, hey,
I-
they spent all that money to be playing it. I don't know.
I was gonna say instead of like every year, they could have done it every 3. Do it like almost like a contractual basis. You kind of have to live up to the contract. You got to be above, above 600.
Yeah,
for 3 years. I don't know, something like that.
Bowl eligible. If you win 6 games, you might get to stay in.
So
Exactly.
that's the thing about like Vanderbilt, for example. They've been in the SEC. They're a charter member, and they've benefited us from an academic standpoint. But I don't even know if you really. I mean, it's not benefiting Alabama if they're a good academic school. I mean, maybe it's benefiting the conference, but they've benefited financially for a long time on the success of a lot of the SEC football programs. While they have sat back and said, we're not going to invest anything into our football program. We don't care about being successful. So that actually would be an interesting model, because if people got relegated, some of these teams, some of these academic schools, and some of these other teams that
Now we're
don't
talking.
would have to throw money at their teams.
Now we're talking. See, start
Have to
talking about
make-
some relegations. That's legit.
It makes you think. It really does make you think.
I mean, there's all kinds of stuff they can do, but we don't need the NCAA for any of it.
Yeah, they're done.
Really don't.
Like they've been negated since the NIL deals level now is legal now. You can pay players now. There's no need for the NCAA. We need a commissioner.
What was the shirt the Boz wore before they said he couldn't be with the team anymore for Oklahoma? The NCAA. It was the National Communist Association Against
He talks
Athletes
about
or
that in
something
that 30
like that.
for 30.
Yeah,
That
I mean,
Boz 30
he had
for
the
30.
he had the shirt and in storage, and still
Yeah.
to this day I think he was ahead of his time. All right, he really was. Now, did he do? He acts a lot like a lot of players do now, and he wanted to be the show. I get it, cool, but
He did.
that's just the way life goes, I guess.
He did want to be the show. He was the show back then. We could use somebody like him nowadays. He'd fit right in nowadays. Social media. He'd been a social media NIL deal. Come on.
He was a modern day Ricky Foster, a little bit.
Dude,
he was
Tua
on
would
the-
have made some more money in NIL deals than he would make in the NFL if that was legal when he was there.
Oh yeah, he'd have been a 10 a year.
I mean, talk about marketability. Jeez.
Back when he had brain cells.
Yeah. Before he had concussions and
All that
stuff.
matters. He just needs to retire.
Yeah.
He's going to be around next year, so he'll be vested in the pension. And then he won't. I doubt they'll pick up his 5th year.
And I
And
think
then
he'll retire.
hopefully he'll retire after take his $40 million and
Invest it, go live your life.
so
Hey,
yeah, and then
heck, he can
Talia
go-
made a big announcement that he's going back to Maryland, and I was like,
Not a
three
bad
falls in
choice.
the woods, nobody's around, doesn't make a noise.
He's actually done pretty well
Yeah.
for them. I'm
Got decent
happy
stats.
for him. I mean, he was
in
never
Loxley's
gonna,
offense, yeah,
He
he's
was-
done
yeah.
decent.
he was never going to play for us. He wasn't going to play for anybody. I mean, if, in the SEC that was at the time. I mean,
I don't know.
Vanderbilt.
No, so I honestly think I don't think he would ever start for us by any means. I think Bryce and Mac.
Mac and Bryce, there's no
Yeah.
way. He knew it too.
I think he probably could have gone to places in the SEC and probably could have been decent or successful. But
Yeah.
the reason why he went to Maryland is because Mike Locks.
Yeah, the locks.
And I will say that I mean they haven't been great, but they've actually been pretty competitive again.
Oh, yeah.
Beat Ohio State this year, I think, and or played with them, or was it
They
Michigan?
played with him.
he hasn't
It was
played
okay.
bad. I mean, if you look at his stats.
And so at Maryland, you don't have very high expectations, and so I mean, he's done a pretty good job. Now, Paul Tyson, that guy, I don't understand his career trajectory at all. He left Alabama, goes to Arizona State, now he's going to Clemson. He must be wanting to coach or something. Because,
That'd be my guess.
Gotta be.
yeah,
I mean,
Cade.
he's played maybe 10 snaps. So.
Went to Arizona
He's
State.
taking that
Yeah.
Blake Barnett tour, Arizona State.
Please God,
Except
don't
not
remind me of
Clemson.
that name. Please. Last time I saw him, he was crying because Jalen Hurts took over his job, and then we never saw him again.
Yeah, that was before
Maybe he
that
got his,
transfer rule. So I saw an interview with him not too long ago. He was on somebody's podcast, and they were asking about that. And he said that back then you could transfer by a certain point and still be eligible to play that same season.
4 games.
So that's why he ejected, because he was like, all right, I lost the job. I don't want to have to sit out a year. So that's why he transferred when he did. I think he said he kind of regretted the timing, but he was trying to keep his eligibility for that season. Different rules, back then.
I think what it was, gosh, I can't remember. It's been so, and the rules changed so much now. It was something about you couldn't. I don't know. I can't. It feels like it's very similar to what it is now, and you get retained. It's like 4 games or something, or it might have been 6 games. Then I think it's gone.
I think you can switch in the middle of the game. I think you just like switch sidelines in the middle of the game.
I have no idea.
I mean,
Maybe.
interconference and everything. I mean, you got guys passing each other at midfield as they're
Changing jerseys here, man. Say, hey,
Yeah.
here, hey, you need one? I got one. Here you go.
I mean, guys transferring all over the place. We got another guy from Georgia. I don't know, some linebacker. I never heard of him, but that's 2 years in a row we've gotten somebody from Georgia in the portal coming off a championship.
But what does it mean? That's the best thing. What
I mean,
does
we
it
lost
mean?
Kennedy, so I guess we need special team guys, need depth at that position. I don't think he's going to be counted on to be the guy.
So, it really shocks me, since we're kind of talking about transfer portal, that we didn't try to go after a transfer portal quarterback. I mean, there was some big names out there. I was hoping that Hartman, is that the guy from Wake Forest, Hartman?
Yeah.
I was hoping we would try to recruit him because I watched him play a few games this year, and he's a legitimately good
He's a
player.
baller. Yeah.
And he made them as good as they were. But I was
He got to Notre Dame, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but at least have a competition. I mean, because like I said last week, I don't know if Jalen Milroe is an option for him. And then, the fact that they haven't put Ty Simpson out there very much kind of makes me wonder about it.
Yeah,
Now-
I agree with you there.
But the Holstein kid, supposedly we stopped recruiting Arch Manning heavily after he committed because I think that was the guy that Nick Saban wanted. So I mean, we'll see what happens, but it's going to be a lot of youth and inexperience, and I don't know about next year's team. I mean, I'm hoping that we're really good. Our schedule's a lot better, but this past year's team was way more experienced.
Yeah, that may have been the problem. Sometimes that's the problem.
Yep.
That and terrible coordinating.
And
Complacency.
cancer's in the locker room.
Complacency, yeah, which I thought we'd gotten rid of in 21, but
We didn't. They were still there. Some of them were.
weird stuff going on. Just weird stuff happening on that team this year. But I agree, Cameron. I know that Saban really liked Holstein, and that Arch never really was a big target for us once Holstein committed. And of course, I don't put much stock into high school film, considering that doesn't translate at all into SEC level play. But if your high school film is bad, obviously it says more. So, but I liked Eli's film, and then I saw those stats from Manning in the state championship game and the playoffs and whatnot. I mean, they didn't look like generational quarterback numbers to me.
No, I mean,
Did he play in
realistically,
Louisiana?
those rankings are. Yeah, he
Louisiana.
played in like 3A.
Yeah, I
Like
mean,
the league, I think it was
they got
five.
smoked in the championship game, and his stats were just awful. And I was like, I mean, that's the transcendent high school quarterback.
If his last name wasn't Manning, would we be talking about him right now?
Yeah.
No, because rankings are all about exposure,
Bingo.
and granted, it's Twitter, so take it with a
Yeah.
grain of salt. But I've read plenty of things where there's been talent evaluators and scouts and all these things, and they say he's a solid 4-star talent.
Talking about Eli
Middle of the pack.
or Arch. Yeah.
Arch. But
I mean, they
he runs
crowned
all
him.
these camps. He's a great showcase player. He has all the skills. He just hasn't developed much as a quarterback. And I know he wasn't surrounded with great talent on his high school team.
I mean, would
I
I
don't
love
know.
for him to?
I don't think
would,
he's going to live up to the bill.
would I love to him to live up to that expectation for like his two uncles? Yeah. I mean, hopefully not against us. I hope we beat him every time when we play him. But I mean, it's put the
I'd
rubber
be
to the
shocked
road
if he was in that game next year. I'll be shocked.
His name is his brand, and I feel like that is going to benefit him throughout the rest of his
Oh yeah.
football career. Because here's the thing, like, he could be an average quarterback at Texas, and still when it gets to the NFL time, they're going to be like, oh yeah, this guy is, he has all the big
Really gonna slobber all over him.
like, like his family, they are the best at like advertising themselves and putting themselves out there. I mean, Archie basically, made Eli a New York Giant because he didn't want to play in San Diego. I mean, so they'll manage something. But I don't think he's going to be better than Quinn Ewers, at least initially.
His mullet won't be.
And I think Quinn Ewers is a pretty good player. I know Texas wasn't like fantastic this season by any means, but he was dealing with some injuries after the Alabama game.
It's
Yeah.
gonna be good. It's gonna be good.
Shout out to y'all's friend on Facebook with that sick mullet last week, whatever. his name
Tucker.
was. Tucker, that's him.
No, it's going to be gut check time for Texas next year. I was listening to ESPNU again today, and it's going to be year 3 with Sark, right? Does that sound right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is all his players. So, it is all him. And,
Just nobody touch him coming out of the tunnel.
Or else he will go ballistic and almost assault
I
somebody.
will murder your family.
I mean, I swear he was going to do that.
That was like, dang.
The guy was
Easy,
just
buddy.
like,
I mean, I know you're
Really tough
8-5 this year, but calm down.
Yeah. You put a restraining order on that guy afterwards, I heard.
Look, that's the common reaction of somebody that's had Ajay Hall and Jaleel Billings on their team for a year. Like, by the end of the year, you're just like, "What touch? Ah! I'll kill everyone!"
get your hands off me!
Yeah, they can have that effect on your livelihood.
Yeah.
To deal with those two.
I mean,
Yeah,
I can see it in my head, the video right now of him just
I know.
losing his mind.
That was pretty funny. I mean, I'm sure the guy didn't think it was funny, but
No, it was. I mean, I would be absolutely I would be like, what is going
Yeah.
on?
I'd have laughed if that guy just would have laid him out.
Wow. Talk to me like that?
Just haymakered him right in the tunnel.
Well, hey, it wouldn't be
Then
the
he
first
tears
brawl
his
we
shirt,
saw.
and it's like a opposing team's logo. He runs a
He
hop.
touches his mic. Alright, you guys are good to work on.
And we're rolling? Okay, go ahead. Go
Oh,
ahead. Go
we're
ahead.
rolling?
Go.
So,
And we're back!
So since like college football season isn't active right now, and I know that's a big part of our program, I think like going forward during the off season, we should try to do something at the end of the show where we like talk about like our favorite or the biggest bust recruits that we thought were going to be great, and like each
Ooh,
of
that's good.
I like that idea.
games like of all time or something like that to kind of try to keep the flow of football throughout the off season. Because when y'all started talking about Ajay Hall, I started thinking about like some of the players from just my Alabama fandom that everybody talked about were going to be so good. Blake Barnett. My guy was Star Jackson. I remember he was supposed to be this 5-star stud that was supposed to replace John Parker Wilson, and he wound up just being a total bust.
I mean, in replacing John Parker Wilson, it's not like the bar was set very high. So it's like you only had to ascend like the second rung of the ladder to eclipse John Parker Wilson.
5-star, and everybody was talking about him, and then he just never.
How about Philip Sims? Remember him, Cameron?
There's another one.
Now, but he ran into the AJ McCarron problem. You know, I mean, AJ, because he was
Philip
a highly.
Sims was the ugliest football player I've ever seen in my life.
Philip Sims.
And he ended up playing at Virginia and did pretty decent for him, from what I remember.
Yeah.
I mean, it was playing for Virginia.
You remember,
but
Star Jackson ended up playing back in Tuscaloosa for Georgia State, I think it was. Didn't he play for Georgia State?
Yeah.
Yes, but he didn't start. He wasn't the starter. Like
He wasn't the starter. Okay.
That's what he done. Yes. Yeah, but I think we should do something like that, like where we talk about, one week could be our favorite games of all time. One week could be the most underrated players that are forgotten about college football players.
Yeah, I'm down with that. That's a great idea. Oh, man, we could go biggest bust. Oh, gosh. BJ Scott was mine. Bert Scott was mine. I was more excited about him signing than Julio. That same class as Julio. And I remember being in a nervous wreck that morning, waiting to see BJ Scott's name come across, the received fax list.
Yeah.
And, man, he was nothing. They just could not find a position for him. He wound up at South Alabama.
Yes, I remember BJ Scott, and I was thinking about this. Not Philip Ely, or there was an Ely guy, right? It was Philip Ely.
It was Philip Ely.
Toledo, and was like a good
Parker's
starting
cousin.
Toledo. But the no, David Cornwell, I think, was the guy who I'm thinking of.
Oh my! I was thinking about him earlier today, and I said David Cornwallis. That's what I said. I was like, no, that's not right.
I don't think he ever stepped on the field at Alabama. He carried a clip for like 4 years.
He's more known now for getting into a Twitter battle with Blake Barnett last year.
Oh yes, I forgot about
Remember that?
Is he the guy? So
He was like 6'5".
Yeah, just huge.
Bateman started, and then Cornwell.
He was the third
whatever his name was.
I think.
But he was like Jake Coker's like evil twin brother. That was really, really bad.
I don't know.
Maybe.
I remember some big Alabama
Bateman.
reporter posted a picture of David Cornwell at the 2013 Sugar Bowl, I believe, and was like, "Is this the next, superstar quarterback at Alabama?" And then he never stepped on the field, like not one
No,
time.
he was awful.
I mean, I don't even know if he was good or bad because he never.
Cooper Bateman. You guys remember they started him that game, and they put in like a bunch of plays for him to run, and he just wouldn't take off running. So they're like, all right, well, that's it. You're out. And he was at Utah like 20 minutes later.
Yeah, and I will say, though, that Ole Miss game, I think, is the reason why we won.
Losing that game.
It's like Jake Coker had like a different mentality. We started running the offense through Derrick Henry more. Like there are times, like it's funny, like when you lose a game, like usually in the past, not this year, but when Alabama loses a game, it's like it puts a different type of fire in it. Like they understand, hey, we can't make another mistake. That 2011 team, which nobody outside of that LSU team is going to beat them that year. That 2012 team, I mean, we lost that A&M game kind of late, but that 2015
Johnny football. I mean,
we
lose
needed
to
that
Johnny
football.
football.
Yeah, that 2015 team, that old.
There's no shame in that. Man, I mean, you remember some of the games that year? Derrick Henry had like 40-something carries.
Auburn game, 46 carries, 270 yards rushing.
Like, Jameer would get like 12 carries, and I'm like, oh, we committed to the run. He had 12 whole carries.
Yeah, well, so it's funny, like, I remember people were like throwing Lane Kiffin like under the bus, like, run the ball, run the damn ball.
They've been screaming at him.
Yeah, because he was like Blake Sims. I love him. I remember that 2014 team. he wound up having a few games that year where he threw like 3 interceptions, 3 in a game, which is like a rare Alabama thing. Yeah. And he was trying to do this NFL type model system, very similar to Bill O'Brien, and it worked in a lot of ways. But at a certain point, like especially when you've got like a Derrick Henry in the backfield, you've got to use that to your advantage. Just like this year, we had a Jahmyr Gibbs in the backfield, but I don't think we got everything out of him because he's one of those guys. If you send him off tackle, he could bust it for 80 yards in a heartbeat, and he would
had that play.
He'd have a negative play, and then we'd just stop running the football. And I feel like we just didn't utilize his skill set or his talent well enough. I mean, I know he was catching the ball out of the backfield, but it was weird. I feel like Lane Kiffin was very similar to Bill O'Brien in his early career. It was, hey, we got to air it out all the time, and I mean, it made Amari Cooper look phenomenal, but that Derrick Henry team in 2015, I think finally Nick Saban was like, look, we've got a mammoth in the backfield. We're going to run it. And I remember that the first half of that season was everybody's talking about Leonard Fournette. It was like the Leonard Fournette.
Still chasing Henry's career.
And all this kind of stuff. And then they came to Tuscaloosa and we just put a whooping on it. And I think he had like 31 total rushing yards in that game. And Derrick Henry went for like 150, 160.
I think both years we played Fournette. He didn't do jack against us.
I think he totaled like maybe 60 yards in 2 games.
In two games.
Just absolutely horrible.
And then the wrecking ball blew his ass up on that kick return.
In the 2014 game. And what's funny, speaking of the transfer portal, Reuben Foster, who was a great linebacker whenever he became a starter for us, he was a backup special teams player for his freshman and sophomore season.
He didn't know how to tackle. He led with his head.
But here's the thing:
Look who was ahead of him.
Today's game, he would have been in the transfer portal after.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That wouldn't have worked. Like Wilson was that too. Mac Wilson was like a special teams player the first few years before he became a starter. He would have been in the transfer portal after year 1.
Man, look, early Mac Wilson was good. Okay, sophomore, the Mac Wilson that tackled Jared Stidham and shoved his head down on the turf, that was good Mac Wilson. The Mac Wilson we got, I guess his junior or senior year, was like Henry Toa this year. I mean, he was just slow and soft and late and out of position all the time and useless.
So I it's funny, we're talking about middle linebackers right now. Yesterday I looked up just to see where Dylan Moses was at. And
still Jacksonville's.
No, he's not even on. He's not with anybody right now, I don't think.
Injuries are what ruined his career. Injuries.
Well, yeah, I mean, it did.
Came back too early.
He came back that senior season, and I remember he was so soft in 2020 and, like, wouldn't tackle a fly. He made Christian Harris look like a just straight baller that year. And that's such a sad situation because, he was like one of the first players to be like offered a scholarship in like the 7th grade. And it was such a big deal. And he was so good until he started, he got injured, I think, his junior year and then came back for his senior year too early.
Non-contact injury. It was like a night practice. He was like standing there and sneezed and his knee exploded.
But he was supposed to be the guy. And unfortunately.
Like innards everywhere. But I think he came back too early. Like I think he came back too early, and he wasn't ever back to being completely right. And so he tried to play through it, and it probably set him back. It killed his draft stock. I mean, it was a bad decision all the way around.
Another injury-riddled guy. Now, since we're just on the topic, who was the running back who just transferred from Alabama this year?
Trey Sanders.
He said he was going to be the Heisman winner, and then he just kept getting hurt.
Well, a car accident will do
car
that
accident.
Yeah.
Explode your hip.
And then he had a car accident his second year.
I mean,
that bad car accident.
That guy should not be walking right now from how bad. I mean, he broke his hip. It was very traumatic injury.
Is he the one that went to TCU? Did he go to TCU?
Yeah.
He went to TCU. Trayshawn Holden went to TCU.
Or Trayshawn.
JoJo Earl went to TCU.
I'm sorry. Yes,
Holden's at Oregon, I think.
Holden went to Oregon. And
Brockermeyer.
Earl.
And then Tommy Brockermeyer. He went there too.
Speaking of recruits that didn't pan out, I remember everybody was talking about the Brockermeyer brothers were going to be these just absolute studs on the offensive line. I don't even remember them playing in the last year.
They haven't.
No, well, see, James is a center, so centers don't normally get in the mix until year 2 or 3. You don't ever see any freshman centers because that's too difficult a position to play walking out off the street from high school.
I'll tell you one person who didn't believe in the
I think the plan for
Brockmeyer
James
plan.
was a couple of years. Tommy now, left tackle, shouldn't have taken 2 years and not been able to get on the field, considering, we had to go to the transfer portal to get the guy from Vanderbilt.
Yeah, well, and our O-line play, I think, over the last 2 seasons has been a weakest
Like,
link.
you'd think Tommy could crack the lineup at some point, but he never could, so you're out. But I still think there's hope for James just because that center position normally doesn't get to your junior, or senior year.
I remember everybody was, J.C. Latham and Tommy Brockermeyer. Those two were going to be the left and right tackle like day one, and Tommy Brockermeyer just never.
He just couldn't do it, man. I don't know if it was injury. I know he's hurt his first year, so I think he redshirted his first year because of his injury. But then he just never could. He just couldn't. He couldn't crack the lineup. I think Latham was going to be our left tackle next year.
Cameron knows what I'm about to say, but there's only one person I know that said that they didn't believe in the hype on the Brockmeyer twins, and his name is Papa Ely, Mike. He's like one of the most pessimistic Alabama fans you'll ever meet, but sometimes he makes statements and then it actually pans out, and you're like, you got that one right, Pops. You got that one right.
Well, it's like Scott was saying earlier. You have to kind of understand like Alabama's recruiting situation. A lot of times, like when Alabama offers a player, all of a sudden they go from a 3-star to a 5-star. And that doesn't mean they're actually a 5-star. It just means that, that's the way the recruiting ranking system works, 247 and all these people. And so you're going to have your people that don't wind up working out, but then you're also going to have your like Josh Jacobs 3-stars that wind up being 5-star level players because it's all about, it really all comes down to development. And that's why like A&M, they can have the number 1 recruiting class ever and be 5 and 7. And, it's all about development. I think Nick Saban's always done a good job of developing his players.
D'Amico was a 3-star. He was only a 3-star too. D'Amico
Well, Josh Jacobs he didn't even have a star when they offered him.
Somehow
I'm not
he's
even
like
joking. He was
Oklahoma,
an
didn't even recruit him.
Yeah, but as soon as Alabama offered him, a bunch of other schools got on his case, and overnight he was a 3-star. So,
He stuck to his guns too.
All exposure and
Appreciate
just
it.
talking to you, and
He led the NFL in rushing.
Yeah.
In the year the Raiders
Special
declined
talent.
his 5th-year option. Well done, Vegas.
It's okay.
Yeah, well done, Vegas. Man, I like this. It's a good idea, Cam. Like going forward, we'll close the episodes with something like that. Something we'll pull out of the. We'll do some trips down memory lane and pull out some old school stuff. But we got Mississippi State tomorrow night. Are you going to the game?
I am. It's not tomorrow night. It's Wednesday
Yeah,
night.
it's Wednesday night.
Wednesday night. I think it's.
I was about to
Tuesday
say
night.
you had me thinking
Wednesday night.
of my days. Yes,
Late
I'm going.
tip, 8 o'clock.
I'm looking forward to it. I am assuming it is going to be a packed out Coleman Coliseum and hopefully a really fun game. I'm not really all that concerned with Mississippi State. We beat them on the road already this season. I think at home we probably take care of business pretty easily there, hopefully. But
This team has that feeling that they take care of business like that.
But I will say I haven't been to an Alabama sporting event since the Alabama-Auburn basketball game last year. So I am looking forward to being around some Crimson Tide fans and hopefully getting another win under the belt.
I will say after watching the Mizzou game, I was kind of envious of their crowd. It was pretty electric. Just I could tell just through watching it.
Yeah. They did that. They played that one song, and then the song went off, and he was shooting his free throw, and the students sang the rest of the whole chorus of that song.
Yeah.
Whatever that song is. I can hear it in my head. I don't know the name of it.
I have a bone to pick with that song.
You know what song I'm
Mr.
talking about,
Brightside.
Fonz?
Yeah, Mr. Brightside.
Yeah.
It doesn't
Okay.
belong at sporting events.
Most generic.
Every
white
college
person
plays it
song
now,
ever.
and every student section sings along.
So it's
I
funny.
just don't think it's that good.
So it's funny because Scott, when we were at Alabama, when we like first started at Alabama, they
I actually can't disagree with what Scott
It's-
said. It actually annoys me, that song does.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. It
they
does.
canceled Dixieland Delight at Alabama games like our freshman year,
Mhm.
right? And so then they all of a sudden started playing Mr. Brightside all the time and thought like, oh, that's going to be the song that, makes
It's
up
going for years.
Dixieland Delight, and it was big for like a year, and then it became so old and like nobody.
Stand.
It's like that
Then you
Green
hear it
Day
at the
song
bar.
that the stupid Alabama marching band plays every home football game.
You're doing this one?
Basket case.
Oh my gosh, the band! I wish they would just blow up that section of the stadium. Can't. I'm not a fan of of bands at college sporting events. That's not.
Oh, no. Come on.
See, Cameron, you touched a nerve. Cameron loves the band.
So that's
That's
another
okay.
good one. Is
That's okay.
The best fight songs? I will say I think Alabama has one of the best fight songs in college.
Agreed.
USC. I think USC Trojans probably have the best.
And Auburn's isn't bad either. War Eagle fly down the field. Yeah.
Yeah,
There should be another segment.
if they just played the fight song every now and then, that would be fine. But the band just crowds the game with a bunch of fluff. Like, I don't need to hear Basket Case 16 times in a game from the trumpet section. Like, I'm sorry, that doesn't do anything for me. Or that stupid thing that goes da-na-na-na, da-na-na-na, da. Like,
Are
is that
you
supposed to
talking-
make me want to run through a wall or what? Like,
That's Florida, isn't it? So I
Alabama does that. Da-na-na-na-na, go, Bama! Da-na-na-na-na,
well,
da-na-na-na.
Florida does that a lot. Wait, no. So Florida does like the thing where it's like "Go Gators" and it's like that.
Yeah.
Same type of thing.
Da-da-da-da.
I hate that. I've been to a couple of Alabama Florida games, and I literally.
Yeah,
Can't
stick
knock
to the
it,
fight
but
song.
who's-
I don't need to hear the top 30 from the 90s from the school band the entire game. That's just me.
Yeah, just play some trap, some
Play some Take the Money and Run when Cam Newton came around. And Son of a Preacher Man. That was hysterical. It cost a guy his job, but oh man, what a way to go out.
Hey, it was so good. We still talk about it today. You know what? That's
Well,
that's
'cause
how
we don't wanna
legends
talk
are
about-
made.
We don't want to talk about the result of that game, so we just talk about the
I can't
music
help
that
what
they played
happened.
before.
Well, Auburn is who Auburn, their athletic director back in 2014, complained about Dixieland Light back when the fans just kept saying "F Auburn" continuously.
I was
Well,
at that game.
I was at that game.
From Alabama, and yeah, it's funny how we listen to Auburn's complaints and wind up firing people and songs for time periods.
Yeah.
That's still one of my biggest gripes. How that 2014 was the last time we heard it for Dixieland Delight, and then it came back like our senior year or junior year of college,
Missouri
Missouri game. Yeah.
and nobody has even batted an eye at LSU's "suck that you know what, baby."
Well,
Like, I know what it says, and I'm not repeating it.
so
That
Auburn-
is Louisiana. I mean,
So-
that is. Just,
But nobody, hey, that's a
Baton
double
Rouge,
standards. I don't
maybe.
care. It's-
LSU doesn't have to worry about another team
LSU doesn't even have standards.
crying about
Yeah, exactly.
those type things. Like
Everybody
Alabama
knows that.
does have to deal with that.
Well, yeah, we do have a
Um,
standard to uphold.
But like, yeah. My thing is what I hate about Dixieland Delight in its current form, or I don't know about its current form because I've been to a football game in a couple of years now in Tuscaloosa. But back when it first started being played again in 2018, everybody would just be like, all these kids that had never even heard Dixieland Delight before would just be F Auburn, F Auburn, F Auburn.
Yep.
Continuously. And I'm like, what they don't realize is that Auburn game in 2014 was like the only time that was ever done.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
And then it became like,
Was it Housel? He always complained about stuff.
wait, who was that?
Was it David Housel?
Oh, I can't remember who it was now. It was their it was Jay Jacobs. No, Jay Jacobs wasn't there. It was whoever their athletic director at the time was. It's the one who was like, it's
We've
disrespectful.
had so many, I can't remember.
Yeah, they have. But yeah, he complained about it, and then Bill Battle, who's the athletic director at the time at Alabama, he's the one who ended up throwing it down. And,
Well, school thought it'd come until they played the Classic or beat Bama over everybody's F-bombs.
Oh, beat Auburn.
Oh, and
Yeah.
the fake crowd
There were
noise.
zero trunks. They knew what they were going to do. So.
Oh yeah, it's
Absolutely.
called A. It's called A.
Yeah.
As much as you can account to, be like, we tried to maintain it, and nothing happened. Sorry, the crowd got away from us.
Can't control them. Better than storming the field.
We don't do that very often. Winners don't do that.
We don't do it
Have
ever.
we ever?
No.
I
We
don't
expect
know.
to
I've
win
never
every
seen
game.
it.
When you expect to win every game, you don't charge the field like losers. And say what
What's
you
the
will about
game?
Alabama, we expect to win every game we play.
no field storming upset me more than when Auburn did it after the 2019 Iron Bowl. That was the one that Mac Jones was in his second career start, and
The pick six off Najee's back,
Yeah, 2 weeks
100-yard pick six. The voodoo magic was out that night, baby.
and they beat us 48-45.
48-45.
Crazy game where that field goal before the half was much BS.
Yeah, where they gave him a free play.
Because they refused to play, and so then it was it wouldn't have even counted today because they changed the rule after that.
Yeah.
But anyway, they stormed the field after that game, and I'm like, that was literally maybe the outside of maybe
They would have stormed it last year, too, in the overtime game. If they'd have beaten us in the overtime game, they would have stormed it again.
That was
All-
much.
Already rolling the trees.
It's funny
Yeah.
because usually when
Right,
we beat
garbage.
Alabama, we beat them like this year, we beat them by 22, 23 points. Usually the average when Alabama wins is by over 3
In
touchdowns.
Tuscaloosa, definitely.
In Tuscaloosa, for sure. It was kind of
Voodoo
refreshing
house.
last year to beat them at the buzzer like that, and to be able to just take the air out of the stadium.
I watched it with Hunter last year down in Troy, and I told him the next day, woke up in a slight hangover, and I said, you know what, it really feels good to get one on him like this. To get a buzzer beater, just a gut punch.
In Jordan Hare, too. We had
yes.
to exercise those demons, man.
Woo!
Because usually when they beat us, it's always some kind of crazy, miraculous, ways.
Pick six.
Your luck.
Two
Yeah,
pick
the
sixes,
national
that type of
right
stuff.
there,
Or in 17, where we never tried to win the game, where it's obvious Jalen couldn't throw, but we left him in there because he didn't want to blow the Tua secret unless he had to.
Well, so I want to be able to
I'm
beat
on
them
team.
5 years in a row. So I want to beat them next year and the year after. That way we can do the fear the thumb thing like
Yeah.
Tommy Bill did back in the day.
That's all he did.
He
He didn't win a single thing else other than that one year that they went undefeated and finished second. That would have sucked, though. I'd have been livid if that had been my team. Ran the table and didn't even get a chance to play for the ship. I would have been livid too. So, geez. All right. Well, is you guys anything else you want to add before we wrap this thing up for the week? Good show, fellas. Enjoyed the discussion. Looking forward to next week as well. We should be back in regular time next week. And I think the Bama game is next Tuesday night. I think it's Vandy next Tuesday night. Yeah.
And then in Tennessee after that? Or?
No, we got LSU on the 4th in Baton Rouge. I believe that's the next one.
I'm more so concerned about Tennessee. That's the big challenge right there.
Yeah. That may be following LSU. That might be Tennessee or maybe Auburn in between there.
Yeah.
And then Bama baseball is around the corner. I don't know if talk about it.
Yeah, we got Mississippi State, Oklahoma, Vanderbilt, then LSU, Florida, Auburn, and then Tennessee.
I'm looking
February
forward.
15th is Tennessee.
I'm looking forward to our baseball team starting off 14-0 against
Yeah,
Minnesota.
just doing it. Crushing.
Yeah.
Like
And then finish the season 19 and 17.
17 in the SEC. Yeah, that's
That sounds
now,
about right.
Hey man,
Sounds about
hey,
right.
we're preseason top 25, all right?
That'll work.
Preseason top 25.
Show up.
Number 20.
We're on our like 6th head baseball coach in like 10 years. So if that tells you the state of our baseball program, now hey, we do have a fantastic baseball stadium. It is beautiful.
No doubt about
Baseball. Yeah, that's
Softball's about to start too.
Yeah,
We'll
I'll
kick
talk
ass
more.
in
Hey, we'll talk more about softball than we will baseball. Can
that.
imagine that.
That's funny, yeah.
Yeah.
But well, guys, it was fun, dudes.
Yeah. Thanks, Scott, fellas, for amending the schedule. Thank you, everybody, for joining in on the chat and who joined us live on Facebook and Twitch, even, and YouTube. So, thanks for hanging out with us for an hour and some change, talking some BAM, talking some NFL playoffs. It's what we do every week. We bring our eyeballs, bring our opinions, bring everything. So, until next time, fellas, roll tide.
Both sides.
It's,